of 2019. Williams told officers her daughter had vanished from their home in Brentwood.
So this woman is a literal first-class petty officer in the United States Navy. She wears the uniform, she commands respect, she is supposed to be the embodiment of discipline, honor, and protection. But behind the closed doors of her pristine Florida apartment, she isn't serving her country. She is running a torture chamber for her own 5-year-old daughter. I'm talking about a mother who goes to work, aces her exams, gets promoted, and pretends to be a hero, all while her little girl is slowly wasting away in a closet, starving to death in the dark. And when the child finally dies, this woman doesn't call 911, she doesn't scream for help. She packs the body into her trunk, drives hundreds of miles to bury it in a swamp, and then comes back to work like nothing happened. This is the story of Brianna Williams, and it is going to make you question every single person you think you know. Let's go back to November 6th, 2019. It's early morning in Jacksonville, Florida. The sun is just starting to come up, people are getting their coffee, getting ready for work, just a normal Tuesday. And then at 7:22 a.m., a call comes into the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office that changes everything. It's Brianna. She sounds frantic. She sounds terrified. She tells the dispatcher that she just woke up to get ready for work at NAS Jacksonville, and her 5-year-old daughter, Taylor Rose Williams, is gone, vanished. She says the back door of the apartment is unlocked. She says she put Taylor to bed the night before, and now the bed is empty. Now, pause for a second. Put yourself in the shoes of those first responders. You get a call about a missing 5-year-old. That is an all-hands-on-deck situation. That is a code red. Every cop, every detective, every available unit is rushing to that apartment complex on Ivy Street. They're thinking this is a kidnapping. They're thinking some predator slipped in through the unlocked back door and snatched a child out of her bed. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement issues an Amber Alert immediately. You've got helicopters in the air. You've got canine units on the ground. You've got volunteers scouring the neighborhood. It is a massive, frantic search operation. Brianna is playing the part of the devastated mother perfectly. She's crying, she's pleading, she's telling officers, "I don't know what happened, she was just here." And at first, everyone believes her. Why wouldn't they? She's a Navy petty officer first class at the Tactical Operations Center. She's a high achiever. She's educated. She looks like the kind of person who has her life completely together. The community rallies around her. People are sharing Taylor's photo on Facebook, on Twitter, praying for her safe return. Everyone is looking for a stranger. Everyone is looking for a boogeyman who broke into that house. But here's the thing about police investigations. They don't just look for the boogeyman. They look at the parents. It's standard procedure. You have to rule out the people closest to the child first. So detectives start looking at the scene. They check the back door that Brianna claimed was unlocked, and almost immediately, things start feeling off. There's no sign of forced entry. Nothing is broken. The house isn't tossed. It's clean. Too clean. And when they start canvassing the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking neighbors if they've seen anything suspicious, they get an answer that stops them cold. The neighbors haven't seen anything suspicious that morning. In fact, the neighbors haven't seen Taylor at all. Not that morning, not the day before, not the week before. Some neighbors tell police they didn't even know a child lived in that apartment. Think about that. A 5-year-old girl. 5-year-olds are loud. They run around. They laugh. They cry. They play outside. How do you hide a 5-year-old in an apartment complex for weeks without anyone seeing her? That's when the detectives realize they aren't dealing with a kidnapping. They are dealing with a ghost. Tell me in the comments right now, if you lived next to someone for months, would you notice if they had a kid? Because these neighbors noticed Brianna. They saw her coming and going in her Navy uniform. They saw her carrying groceries, but they never saw Taylor. And that is a massive red flag waving right in the detectives' faces. So the police bring Brianna down to the station for questioning. Now, at this point, she isn't under arrest. She's still the victim in their eyes, technically, but the questions start getting specific. When was the last time you actually saw Taylor? Who else saw her? Why hasn't she been to daycare? And Brianna's story starts to get slippery. She's vague on the details, she's defensive, and then just hours into the investigation, she does something that pretty much seals her fate in the court of public opinion. She stops cooperating. You heard me. The woman who just called 911 screaming that her daughter was missing, the woman who should be tearing the city apart with her bare hands to find her child, suddenly lawyers up and stops talking to the police. She shuts down. She refuses to answer any more questions about where Taylor might be. Now, I'm all for constitutional rights. You have the right to remain silent. But if my kid is missing, you are going to have to tape my mouth shut to stop me from talking to the people who can find them. Brianna's silence speaks volumes. It screams guilt. The police shift gears. They stop looking for a kidnapper and start tearing Brianna's life apart. They look at her digital footprint, they look at her movements, and they find something interesting. Brianna didn't just stay in Jacksonville. A few days before reporting Taylor missing, Brianna took a little road trip. Her GPS data shows that she drove all the way up to Alabama, specifically rural Alabama, specifically the area where she grew up. Why would a mother who is working full-time at a Navy base suddenly drive hundreds of miles to the middle of nowhere and then come right back? And why didn't she mention this trip to the police? The investigators realize if they want to find Taylor, they need to follow that car. They need to retrace every single mile of that trip to Alabama. So now you have a multi-state search operation. You've got the FBI, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and Alabama authorities all working together. They are scouring the woods in Marengo County, Alabama. This is dense, desolate country. Swamps, woods, dirt roads. It's the kind of place where you can bury secrets and expect them to stay buried forever. Search teams are out there with cadaver dogs, drones, the whole 9 yards. They are looking for a needle in a haystack, but they have the GPS data. They know exactly where Brianna stopped. While the search is happening in Alabama, detectives in Florida are digging into the torture house. That's what this apartment was. It wasn't a home. They execute a search warrant, and what they find is horrifying. This place reeks. There's a stench of decay that had been masked with cleaning products, and they find the closet where Taylor spent the last days of her short life. Let's talk about the internet search history, because this is where you see the true face of evil. You know, we all search for weird stuff sometimes, but Brianna Williams wasn't searching for recipes or Navy regulations. She was searching for information on starvation. She was searching for how to starve a child. She was searching for liquid diets. She was researching how long it takes for a body to decompose. This woman, this mother, was sitting at her computer in her uniform, Googling how to kill her own daughter slowly and painfully. Real quick, hit that subscribe button because we are diving deep into the psychology of this monster, and you are not going to want to miss the details of what comes next. The internet search history paints a picture of premeditated, calculated cruelty. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a snap decision. This was a slow-motion murder. While Brianna was going to work, getting praise from her superiors, studying for her advancement exams, she was coming home and starving a 5-year-old girl. She was depriving her of food. She was locking her in a closet. Taylor was wasting away, literally eating her own waste because she was so hungry, and Brianna was just watching it happen. And then, on November 12th, 6 days after the 911 call, the search teams in Alabama find something. In a wooded area between the cities of Demopolis and Linden, buried under pine straw and dirt, they find human remains. It's a small body. A child. It's wrapped in a black plastic bag. The cadaver dogs hit on it, and the investigators know immediately. The search is over. They found Taylor. The autopsy reveals the nightmare that Taylor lived. She didn't just die, she was tortured. She was severely malnourished. There were signs of long-term abuse. This little girl, who should have been in kindergarten, who should have been learning her ABCs and playing with dolls, had been reduced to a skeleton. And her mother, the person who was supposed to protect her from the world, was the one holding the weapon, and the weapon was hunger. When the news breaks that they found the body, the outrage is nuclear. People are furious. How could a Navy officer, someone trained in honor and duty, do this? But here is the twisted part. Brianna wasn't just neglecting Taylor because she was lazy. It was active malice. Investigators found that Brianna resented Taylor. She saw the child as a burden. Taylor had some developmental delays. She needed extra care. And Brianna, the narcissist perfectionist, didn't want to deal with it. She wanted the career. She wanted the freedom. She wanted the image of success. Taylor didn't fit into that picture, so Brianna decided to erase her. Brianna is arrested and charged. At first, she tries to fight it. She pleads not guilty. She sits in that courtroom with a blank expression, wearing her orange jumpsuit, looking nothing like the polished sailor she used to be. But the evidence is overwhelming. The GPS data puts her at the burial site. The internet searches prove intent. The condition of the apartment proves the abuse. She has nowhere to run. The prosecutors are going for blood. They want the maximum. And honestly, can you blame them? This is one of those cases where even the most hardened detectives needed therapy afterwards. But the legal system is a game, and Brianna plays her final card. To avoid a trial that would expose every single gritty detail of her monstrosity to the world, and to avoid a potential death penalty or a harsher sentence, she takes a plea deal. In March of 2022, Brianna Williams pleads guilty to second-degree murder. Second degree. A lot of people were angry about that. They wanted first degree. They wanted her to fry. But second-degree murder in Florida can still carry a life sentence, and that is exactly what the prosecutors asked for. At the sentencing hearing, the details came out, and they were worse than anyone imagined. Witnesses testified about how Brianna would brag about her Navy accomplishments while her daughter was literally dying in the next room. They talked about how she manipulated everyone around her. She had lied to friends, telling them Taylor was with grandparents or at a special school. She had built a fortress of lies to hide her crimes. And let's talk about the father, Tate Williams. He wasn't in the picture much, but he was devastated. He stood in that courtroom and looked at the woman who killed his child. The pain in that room was palpable. But Brianna, she didn't show much emotion. That's the thing about these types of killers. They don't feel guilt. They feel sorry for themselves. They feel annoyance that they got caught, but they don't feel the loss of the human life they extinguished. The judge didn't buy her act for a second. He looked at the evidence, he looked at the cold, calculated way she disposed of the body, and he threw the book at her. Life in prison, no chance of getting out and pretending to be a hero again. Brianna Williams will die in a concrete box, just like the one she created for her daughter. But here is the question that haunts me, and I want you to answer it in the comments. How did nobody know? Brianna was in the Navy. She was surrounded by people every day. She lived in an apartment complex. She had family. How does a 5-year-old girl disappear from the face of the earth for months, starving to death, and nobody steps in? Is it because we are too afraid to get involved? Is it because we assume that people in uniform are automatically good parents? Or is it because Brianna was just that good of a liar? This case exposes a terrifying reality. Monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like American heroes. Sometimes they look like the nice lady next door. And sometimes the most dangerous place for a child isn't a dark alley with a stranger. It's in their own bedroom with the person who gave birth to them. Taylor Rose Williams deserved better. She deserved a life. She deserved food. She deserved love. And while justice was technically served, it feels empty because Taylor is still gone, and Brianna Williams is just another inmate number rotting away while the world tries to forget what she did. But we shouldn't forget. We need to remember Taylor. We need to look a little closer at the people around us because you never know what is happening behind closed doors. And speaking of things happening behind closed doors, if you think this story was wild, wait until you hear about the next one. Trust me, you're going to want to hit that notification bell because the world is a crazy place, and I'm just here to tell you about it.